Hi, everybody. Michelle Tennant Nicholson here, and I am joined by Fire Marshal Kevin Waldrup, who's given me permission to call him Kevin. I don't know, my daddy always told me to have respect and call you sir, so if it comes out, I'm a military brat, so
That's
it
all
might
right.
just come out. With my husband, Kevin, I co-founded friendsofeastflatrock.org. We're a group right under 10,000 now of neighbors here in Henderson County who oppose the asphalt plant. And gosh, we were just given some information last Thursday from the applicant about one of the biggest danger to an asphalt plant is fire. So then, of course, all of us are like now thinking about fire and researching it and wondering about it. So one of the questions that I would have is the capacity of Henderson County to respond to a toxic plant explosion. Do we have the capacity? We researched it and it says the station closest is rated an ISO 3. I have no idea what that means. Can you help me out?
Well, there's a we're in North Carolina, so the fire departments are rated through the ISO rating system, which is our insurance rating system.
Ah,
But the state of North Carolina has adopted part of ISO, but the North Carolina Department of Insurance is actually who does the ratings for the state of North Carolina, not just Henderson County, but the state of North Carolina. So it is true that Blue Ridge Fire Department would be the first responding department, and they are rated a class 3. What that means is departments are rated from 1 to 10,
okay.
with 1 being the best. So the majority of the departments in Henderson County are 3, 4, or 5.
Oh, good. Well, that's
Well,
good
actually,
news.
Henderson County has a better rating on their fire services than a lot of the surrounding counties.
Excellent. Okay, well, that makes me feel a little better. So I I know you're going to be like, oh, I can't believe that. But next Wednesday, I turn 51. So
Right,
happy early birthday to me.
right.
Unfortunately, it's also the anniversary of a big fire in North Carolina. It's the Statesville, North Carolina, the Maymead Materials asphalt plant. Just a year ago on my birthday, burned up. And I was watching some of the news accounts, and they said there was a strong odor of gas, and they had to have 13 fire agencies come to actually put it out. And so then I started asking, and then they also had from the airport phone trucks because they didn't have the phone trucks at their nearby. So then I started thinking, oh my gosh, in here in East Flat Rock, do we have phone trucks? Would you all have to? Do you have hazmat suits? These were all things that happen in Statesville. So what would happen with that? Can you tell me about that?
Well, it all depends on the severity of the issue. I mean, an asphalt plant is no different than any other plant or any other um, incident that may happen in Western North Carolina. Fire departments have to be prepared to do to handle several different, a lot of different things that's untold. I mean, of course, they can be prepared for your common instances such as structure fires or MVAs or any kind of medical thing. But who knows? Say a good example. Who knows when a plant is going to have a fire of any type plant,
Okay.
or what the severity is going to be with that. How many people is going to be involved with it? Um, who knows when a plane may crash in right there on 25 beside you. I mean, nobody can pre-plan for that.
Okay.
So fire departments have to have that in the back of their mind that they're going to go to instances that are not everyday routine instances. To battle that, what they do is all the departments in Henderson County have an automatic aid agreement. All the departments in North Carolina have a mutual aid agreement. So what that means is if, say, example, if you had a structure fire, just a common everyday structure fire in, and we'll use Blue Ridge's district because that's where you're at, but it's common throughout. You'll get departments already from 2 or 3 different departments. That's how they got rated as a 3 because they have to have so much water and manpower available on every incident to be rated at that lower number. So you have 13 different departments in Henderson County that all have an automatic and mutual aid agreement to
Okay.
to respond to things depending upon the severity. If it's, you know, a common house fire doesn't require 13 department response, but, you know, and it's also tiered out into, you know, first alarms, second alarms, that kind of thing, as the incident increases or as is needed. You mentioned the airport. We actually have a contract with Asheville Airport. The reason that the airports are used is because that's the way they fight fire with airports with the planes is with foam. So their trucks are different than the common fire trucks that you see mostly going up down the road. But we have a contract with them too. They'll come anywhere in Henderson County that's needed with their foam trucks.
Okay, so we would be able to have the fire trucks, but then that's going to be about a 30-minute, you know, I guess it'd be 30 minutes to get here. And then the hazmat suits, that kind of thing, that's typical of.
Well, the hazmat thing, that's a different thing now, because it depends upon the response. If it's just a common fire, there's no more hazards in it than there are in any other petroleum-based fire, whether it be plastics or anything else. So the firefighters have got all the turnout gear and protective, you know, PPE that they need for that. If it turns into a hazardous materials incident, which you know, it could or could not, then there's several different rapid response teams scattered throughout the state. Our closest being from the state, from Asheville with RRT6, they call it. That's the regional response team for the hazmat. So a lot of the local fire departments are rated as hazmat responders, but the technicians come from the regional team from Asheville. It takes going from us through emergency management to request that, but here again, we can request that at any time.
Okay, because it sounded like that in Statesville that they needed that foam truck and the 13 fire agencies, and it was.
Right. It just depends upon the severity of the incident.
Okay.
And with this particular asphalt plant, they have to meet different requirements and different things, you know, to even be there. You know, they have to go through the zoning, and of course have to go through county, down at the local level for counties. They have to go through what's called a technical review committee meeting to even have it constructed. And there's
we had one of those, and they were not able to answer those questions. So
the fire questions.
Correct. So there were we just had. So we're going to have another meeting, and of course, my opinion about how the application was complete or not is my opinion, and the Henderson County Planning Department did move it through to the next level, so It was complete enough for them.
Right.
We as neighbors still had more questions though, and it's a conditional rezoning. We're already zoned residential and office commercial. We're not zoned for industrial, so we have additional questions about those, exactly what you're saying, which would be part of the conditional rezoning request.
Right.
Now, when we talk about the other getting support from 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away, my other question is, I didn't understand what I was reading on one of the websites. It said that the Blue Ridge Fire and Rescue in the village of Flat Rock and that they're not being manned 24/7. Is that does that impact our ability to respond to
That's a substation. That's a substation for Blue Ridge Fire Rescue. They're manned 24/7. They have 4 people there 24/7.
So then whatever I read was not.
The station that's in the village of Flat Rock is a substation to the main station. We have 13 different departments in Henderson County.
Okay.
That's different departments, but each department, some departments have 3 or 4 stations within their department.
Oh, gotcha.
There again, it goes back to the rating to obtain a better rating. So we have actually Blue Ridge Fire District has two stations within that response area. The station below you, Green River, they have 3 working on 4. So it's more than just one station for Blue Ridge Fire District or Valley Hill Fire District or Hendersonville Fire District. They have different a number of stations within that fire district. Some manned, some are not. I mean, if you have in fact, we only have one department in Henderson County that's not manned. you know, if you may have an area that's farther back in the woods, for lack of better terms, you know, then it may not be manned because just of the sheer need and the you know, you have to weigh the number of responses they have, and you know, and all of that to justify the putting people there for 24 hours.
Do you think that, let's say the asphalt plant gets approved and is put in, will there be extra precautions that
What will happen with that? Yeah, I mean, the process itself is going to. I mean, OSHA and people like that's going to require them to do a great number of steps to increase their safety. Anytime you do have a manufacturing type facility, whether it be an asphalt plant or just any other kind of plant, OSHA plays a part with that. So that they're going to have regulations about it. You know, as far as locally, the fire department will go out and do what's called a pre-fire plan. They do it with all commercial businesses. And what that consists of is they look at the hazards that's on it, to where if there is something that happens there, it's not a great surprise to them because they've already looked at the facility. They know what hazards are there. They have already thought about how to handle those hazards, and every department does that on every commercial structure in the county. In addition to that, here at the fire marshal's office, we do inspections on it as well, looking at some of the same stuff, depending upon what kind of occupancy it is, on how often that occurs. It could be annually or it could be every 3 years, but we strive to do everything annually in Henderson County, even if it's only required for every 3rd year. So there's several different agencies that look at this on a daily basis, or an annual basis anyway, to try to head off any possible problems that we see, or fire hazards or that kind of thing, before anything ever happens. And they can have somewhat of a plan. You can't plan a fire or an incident perfectly because it's never going to happen exactly like what you think. But they'll have an idea of what, as an example, how much water they will need or how much foam they will need, and they'll plan for that.
Yeah, so it, as I told you, you know, one of the reasons why I moved here, because you asked me when we talked earlier, do I live here? And I'm 1,100 feet from the property that's being targeted. And I first moved here for the Green River. You know, I'm a big whitewater kayaker, and the Green River is actually, the proposed site is 300 feet from Laurel Creek, which is a tributary that feeds into the Green River. And it is, you know, it is a famous river around the world, and a lot of people come here to enjoy the Green River, including our camps. And so the questions that I get also are, if we had a fire, the watershed, how will the watershed to the Laurel Creek, the Green River, and other water in the area, how will that be affected?
Well, here again, it just depends upon the severity of the incident. If it's a, excuse me, if it's a smaller incident, and from what I know about asphalt plants, which is not a great deal, but from what I know of them, the way they're constructed to be fire resistant as it is. So if they have a small fire within the system, you may be surprised at how little of water or whatnot it takes to manage that incident. So it may not be a big deal at all if it's contained into one of their machines or however. Because there are several, if you'll look, there's several fires that talk about it being contained in the manufacturing process, resulting in a small incident. If it gets big enough, the real danger with asphalt plants is exposure fires. And what I mean is with all this stuff being fire resistant through the manufacturing part, it's going to be hard to burn. But that hot asphalt catching something else on fire is their issue. So if they have clearance around this plant to where it can't catch the woods on fire, or that kind of thing, and then that's going to greatly reduce the chances of having a large incident. If you do have a large incident, large enough to where you have to flow a lot, which from what I've seen, there's not going to be that much structure or anything on this site to do that with, then of course our water quality and stuff would be involved with the streams and stuff to monitor it, and that would turn into the hazmat instance that you talked to earlier, and they would mitigate, you know, what needed to do to control any runoff for that nature.
Well, one of the things that they're saying is that they want, for the residents within a half mile. And by the way, just to put it into perspective, there are 304 residents within a half mile.
Mm-hmm.
Just to put in perspective, Tar Heel has 145 residents.
Mm-hmm.
So there's what the applicant is telling us is, look, we know you love your nature. We're going to keep buffers up, lots of trees up and so then what you just said is like, okay, great. But then we've got a lot of trees that can burn. There was a video that I saw this morning where the asphalt plant had, the TV covered it, right, with the Statesville, Maymead, and a few of the other. We've got one guy, Jay, who's really posting a lot on the research that he's finding on asphalt plant explosions. And one of the pieces of the asphalt plant, in this particular one I saw, was shocking because it exploded and then a huge piece of the plant went across the street. Well, I'm across the street. So I was like, I don't care for, I don't want to be underneath something that explodes, right? So that's kind of like, what would even happen to those of us who would be displaced by a fire? What happens in Henderson County when we have to move immediately? Where do we even go?
Well, I'd like to address this way first, before I answer that question. Is every fire that they have is not going to result in an explosion.
Okay. Okay.
You can have fires there periodically, and it may never have an explosion. Every fire does not result in an explosion.
Okay, good.
So you don't have to worry about the plant blowing up and landing on your head or on your house every time that the fire truck goes there, because it just don't work that way. It can happen, but it don't happen every time that way. In fact, it's fairly rare compared to the fires versus once it's developed into an explosion.
Okay.
But an explosion would be, like I said, like I kind of alluded to earlier, an explosion can happen depending upon what any manufacturing plant does. They all have different processes that can produce an explosion. You never know about that. I mean, that's just, we can't plan that it's going to explode because we don't know. Or like I say, a plane could fall out, could crash on your house. I mean, you think those kind of things are just you never know. You just try to plan as much as you could. But if people are displaced from smoke, and that's going to be your biggest thing, you're not going to have a lot of flying embers or anything from a fire from an asphalt plant because you don't have a lot of structures to be burning. It's all your asphalt. It's heavy. That's not going to float around through the air. So the smoke and stuff. So what would happen with that was that you would be displaced or moved if the smoke was deemed to be a health hazard by Henderson County Emergency Management and the fire departments during the course of the event. We would use law enforcement to help evacuate neighborhoods and whatnot if that was an issue.
I measured it, and so Hillendale Elementary and the schools nearby are about a mile, like a mile 0.1 from the asphalt plant. Mm-hmm. And so that's about 1,500 children, right? Like, so if it happened during the school day, that's a lot. So we'd have to evacuate a lot. And so I don't even know where we would go. I mean, I guess Florida's more, with their hurricane evacuations, but I don't even know where we'd go.
Well, we have different shelters that set up throughout the county for different things. And here again, it just depends on the direction of the wind. I mean, it may affect one neighborhood one time, one neighborhood the next. So it's not like a mile and a half radius and you're going to have to evacuate everybody because there's not that kind of hazardous material there. It's going to be going in one direction or the other, or it could be going straight up and not affecting anybody.
Well, I have offices in Saluda. Do you think Saluda would be safe enough or too far? It depends on the.
It just depends. It just depends.
Okay.
But
fair enough.
What we do is if we have to mass evacuate people, then that's where the Henderson County Emergency Management steps in. The North Carolina Emergency Management. We have different shelters that's prearranged throughout Henderson County that we do use right now for hurricanes and other issues, not just fires, but it can be used the same way, such as different schools that we can use the gyms and stuff, or different churches that we do set up for emergency shelters. We even have tents and big tents and stuff that we can deploy for that.
Okay.
So, you know, here again, it just depends upon the situation, but emergency management plans for that.
Well, it makes me think of, you know, because then of course, you know, I'm like a mother hen worrying about my chickens and my bees. And I'm like, well, the bees in Notre Dame, remember the fire that happened in Notre Dame? The bees survived that fire, that cathedral fire. And so I'm like, well, the bees are probably a little more resilient than I have to worry about, right? They're going to be able to fly and take care of themselves with their queen. So what question should I have asked you that I didn't ask you, Kevin? What should I know about that I haven't asked you?
I don't know. I mean, I understand your concern with an asphalt plant. Nobody wants to have an asphalt plant in their backyard. I understand that. Nobody wants a dump in their backyard, but you know, people want paved roads and they want a place to take their trash. That's not desired. Nobody wants that in their neighborhood. I understand that totally, and I'm not defending it versus you or anything. I'm just telling you the honest answers. But from what I've seen of it and the layout that I did see, it does seem that they have allowed a lot of buffering area around it to prevent any kind of incident from spreading. From what I understand about the process, there's nothing that you can't say that's never going to happen. But like I said earlier, there's a lot of agencies such as OSHA or the fire marshal's office or the fire department's doing pre-fire plans, or just the manufacturing process itself with their recommendations. All of those work together to keep it as safe a place as possible. You know, like I said, I can't sit here and say something won't happen, but I can sit here and say that I'm not overly concerned about something happening there that wouldn't happen at any other commercial facility in the county.
Sure, I understand that. Well, I think, you know, when my husband and I moved here and we had our dreams of our farm in 2004, we checked the zoning, and the zoning said residential and office commercial. So we're all, I mean, I love having the restaurants and you know, there's a few office commercial, like Paramount Food Processing and so forth. I just didn't sign up to be next door to an asphalt plant and industrial manufacturing. We checked on that.
Right. I understand that totally. And
you know,
I don't have anything to do with the zoning part of it.
I know. So that's for me as a neighbor. I'm like, well, that's all right. I can move. If I need to move, I'll move. And then my neighbor Bessie, who's in her golden years and she's retired, or like this guy I talked to yesterday, he's retired military. This was their dream home, their Shangri-La, their forever home. So I'm like, you know, I know that I have the means to move, but I know that my older neighbors don't. So that's why we're just going to give it a good fight, because it's just not what it's zoned for.
Oh, I agree.
So I appreciate your time today. And I've
lived here all my life, and it's not like it was when I grew up either. And I don't really like it either, but you know, that's life, and that's the way it is. So
that's what makes us Americans. We can have a community conversation. We can be educated by our fire marshals. You know, I love having conversations with our commissioners. The thing I think we'll have to fight for after this is all over is that only residents within 400 feet were notified. Like I'm not even supposed to know yet. I'm not supposed to be notified till September, which that I think is kind of ridiculous. But then that takes a legislative process, and that takes active citizens who are taxpayers to communicate in a respectful manner and participate in the lawmaking, right? So I've really, listen, as a taxpayer and as a business owner and as a resident, I just really appreciate you even taking the time with me today, okay?
No problem. No problem.
I really do appreciate it. I'm going to stop our recording. Hold on just a second.